Have you ever heard Christians point out that modern English Bible translations removed something important? Maybe you've heard it said that all of our modern translations remove the word fornication, which is having sex with someone you're not married to. It's all over in old translations, but the NIV, ESV, CSB, NLT, the Bibles that we use today, not once. Or maybe it's something more subtle. Have you ever listened to a Bible teacher online, or maybe you're sitting in church and they say, your English Bible probably says this, but the original Greek, what it actually means is this. Sound familiar? And as people say things like that over and over and over again, have you ever started to wonder if you can trust English translations at all? Do you even have access to the Bible without knowing the original languages? This question matters a lot to me. I spent 4 semesters studying Greek in seminary, another 4 studying Hebrew, and I spent a lot of time around people with even more language skills than me. What I've found is that there's so much confusion and even a ton of suspicion around English translations of the Bible. Stories are being told, like this word was added or the Bible was removed. Let me start by saying that there are some translations you really should avoid. Be careful of English Bible translations that were made by just some guy, like the Mirror Bible. That's when mistakes happen. Theological bias comes in, just don't. I mean, the message by Eugene Peterson is a little different since he wasn't just some guy. Peterson was a scholar and Old Testament language guy, but still be careful. Most modern translations are not done by a single person. They are made by a committee of Bible translators working with the original languages, many of them evangelical scholars teaching in good schools. The NIV, for instance, has Douglas Moo, Bill Mounts, Dan Wallace, many other excellent scholars. They had a pretty good mix of church traditions. The ESV brought in a huge group of scholars for oversight, for review, right? Like reading about how the translation was assembled, who they invited to the team. You can see the care and seriousness and love for God's word. This is why we should be suspicious of people saying things like the ESV removed verses from the Bible, as if the entire team of committed and faithful scholarly evangelical translators who made it their life's work to learn Greek and Hebrew wanted to mess with the Bible. Now, people point out examples of changes in Bible translations. For instance, open an old Bible like the KJV to Matthew 18:11. It says, "For the Son of Man is come to save that which was lost." Turn to the NIV, the ESV, or other modern translations, and Matthew 18:11 is gone. It actually skips from verse 10 to verse 12. So people go crazy on the internet saying these translations removed the mission of Jesus from the Bible. Really? If that's what these translations were trying to do, then why didn't they remove those same words of Jesus in Luke 19:10? That's still there in our modern translations. Here's what happened. Our earliest manuscripts of Matthew do not include Matthew 18:11. But sometime early in church history, before we added numbers to those verses, Luke 19:10 was copied over into Matthew 18, where it didn't belong. Early translators didn't realize this, so it shows up in the KJV. But the teams who build our modern translations have learned a thing or two since the 1600s. Looking at our best manuscripts, they realized that Matthew 18:11 wasn't something Matthew actually wrote, and so, out of respect and care for God's word, they removed that verse from early translations. They did not remove that verse from the Bible. The original Bible never had that verse to begin with. So they took it out from the translations, probably knowing about the backlash that would come. But for them, getting the Bible right mattered more. What about the translations removing fornication? Well, yeah, the word fornication isn't there anymore. That's because modern translations have been updated to modern language. Language changes over time. Fornication is an old word. People no longer know what it means. When is the last time that showed up in a conversation you had? Like new words were swapped out to make the text clearer for modern readers. Words like prostitution or sexual immorality have replaced fornication. That's what's going on with these modern translations. What about when people go, your English Bible says this, but in the original Greek, it actually means this. I was in church one day and the preacher did something like that with the word compassion in the Bible. Like when Jesus was moved with compassion, he pointed out that the original Greek word for compassion refers to a deep inner longing and love for the well-being of another person. And everyone is like, whoa, that's so cool. And it is cool. But if you just pause and think about it, that's also what the English word for compassion means. I'll tell you this, as someone who has studied these languages in an academic setting and working closely with others who study and teach it, we're all kind of on the same page about this. At least 9 times out of 10, whenever someone tries to say something profound about the original Greek or Hebrew in the Bible, mistakes are made. Sometimes it's harmless, like in the case of the Greek word for compassion. Other times, there are actual errors, and these Bible teachers start spouting off nonsense. Again, our best English translations are built by a team of scholars who know what they're doing. If somebody starts going rogue and tries to correct the English translations, well, one, they're probably wrong, and two, it makes people think that you don't have access to God's word unless you learn the original languages. So if correction is needed, and sometimes it is, be careful. It's not like learning the original languages is useless. In some cases, there's just no good way to say something in English, and that's why knowing the original languages can be helpful. It's also nice so you can spot other people talking about languages poorly and understand what's really going on. But for most people, I wouldn't say that learning the original languages of the Bible should be high up on your list of priorities, because at the end of the day, we can use and trust our modern English Bible translations. Even still, you might wonder why we have so many English translations. Does this mean we can't get it right? Or that the Bible is constantly changing? Not at all. It's actually a good thing we have so many different translations, and I talk about that in a different video. I'll drop the link in the comments, so check it out. Thanks for watching. Hope that was helpful, and I'll see you in the next video.